Hi and welcome to A Drama's Guide to, the podcast all about things that it takes to be a professional musician aside from actually playing your instrument. My name is Dolan Davies. I have been drumming since 1999, professionally since 2008 and helping others to do the same since 2018. I had already started recording an episode. I was 20 minutes in and realised that I was talking in circles. I was making no sense. So we are starting again because it was, even for me, I was like, nah. I'm sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. My brain is a little bit slow today, so you may have to bear with me. But anyway, we're going to try again and hopefully a little more coherently, although it's me, but we'll see. We live in hope. I live in hope. Maybe you don't, although you're still here. So, well, so far, maybe you're about to switch off. Anyway, so today I wanted to speak about something that was inspired by this conversation that I had yesterday. So basically, I was speaking to someone about people that were very entitled. And entitled people are the kinds, when I see entitled behavior, it really gets to me. It really irks me. It always has since I was very, very young. And I was speaking to this person about that and, you know, they were super aware that, because I think, well, no, I know they're exactly the same. And we were speaking about it and I was like, right, but thinking about this, you know, you've got, let's say it's like a scale. You've got these entitled people who just expect the world to kind of fall at their feet and all this sort of stuff. But then if you look at the other end of that scale, you've got the people that feel that they don't deserve anything. And I 100% have, for the majority of my life, been at the other end of that scale. And as I know it now, that is someone who had like zero self-esteem pretty much. So I thought that was quite an interesting kind of way of looking at it. It also occurred to me that that's probably why I'm so annoyed by entitled people, is because actually when I look at myself, somewhere deep down, I was going, I wish I could feel like I deserved at least something. You know, I felt like I deserved nothing in this life. I'm getting better, I'm recovering from this, but I think that's why it really grated on me for such a long time. Still does, as you can tell. But I'm trying to get better at recognizing why that probably is, quite honestly. But anyway, then I started thinking about doing an episode today, and this conversation has kind of stuck with me. And I thought that it would be interesting to do an episode looking at the cost, the personal cost of being easy to work with. And that kind of, like I say, it kind of feeds into this low/no self-esteem thing, because I prided myself on being someone that was easy to work with for a very long time. I still do, to a point. Like I do, in fact. I'm trying to get better, quite honestly, because for me, what being easy to work with means, or meant, was essentially doing everything I could to never rock the boat, create ripples, all these water metaphors. But to, just be not just a pleasant person, but never create any sort of tension, friction, nothing. And where that came from certainly was a lack of self-esteem, because I felt that, who am I to be asking questions, to be clarifying information? I should just know it inherently, even though nobody's told me. In fact, I've just remembered this. So there was a band that I was playing with called Visit Q. Great man, really great Afro-punk band. And I remember the very first day that I went to go play with them. So, and I remember I'd gotten to a point where I was quite good at learning. So I was like 17, maybe even a bit younger. And I'd gotten very good at learning songs very quickly by listening to them once and playing them. Now, this wasn't charting. I wasn't doing charting at this point. This was just by ear. And, you know, I would just listen and internalize and play. And I remember being in the rehearsal room with these guys and girls. In fact, shout out to David, Dwight, and Mummy. And yeah, so they were like, oh, we'll just play through these songs, and then if you want to like play along or whatever else, because they didn't have recordings or anything like that. And I was like, all right, cool. And I would play through them with them at the same time, first time that they were playing them. And I would recognize, like, I'd done a lot of like blues jams and various things. So I kind of, because I'm a high functioning anxiety person, I was noticing little movements of each musician to kind of denote different sections and all these sorts of things that, I don't know. Anyway, semantics. I just started playing through them. And we would get to the end of the song, and they would be like, wow, that was great. And I was like, no. Like I should have been able to play that better. I should have been able to like hit all the stops or the parts or the changes or whatever. And I remember the singer being like, you've never heard this song before. This is your first time ever playing it. Like, that was fantastic. And I was like, no, it should have been better. And again, it was this thing of like such low self-esteem and so like, I'm so sorry that I did not do this perfectly for you. Again, also perfectionist tendencies, we could go down all these rabbit holes with this. But it was that thing of like, I want to be the easiest person possible to work with because I want to work, essentially. And I think it all sort of started when starting out on the drums. You know, I found this thing, I loved it. And then I realized that what it afforded me was a sense of belonging within my school, which was a thing because did not enjoy school at all for various reasons that I'm sure many of us have very similar experiences. And this, it gave me a place to belong within the music department. It gave me a chance to connect with other people. In my school, being a drummer was quite a commodity. Like me and Charisse at some points were the only drummers in the whole school. That meant we were playing with everyone from 11-year-olds to 18-year-olds doing their A-level exams. It would get us out of classes, which is awesome. But yeah, so it became this sort of vehicle, if you like, it also gave us social status, I suppose, to a point. And it gave this vehicle of safety for me that felt so important. But this kind of thing of, I want to be as easy as possible to work with so that I can keep working with people. And obviously at that stage, I'm not talking about professionally. It started very early. It was very much like, I want to be so easy that everyone asks me to work with them so that I get to keep getting out of lessons and I get to keep doing what I'm enjoying. But later on it became, I want to do this for my living. So I need to work as much as possible. So I need to be as easy as possible to work with. Now, on the surface, this kind of makes sense, I suppose. Like, you want to be as easy as possible, blah, 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 blah. But the problem comes, and it came for me, was that there would be this line that meant that by being easy to work with, I was sacrificing myself. And again, this comes back to low self-esteem, or no self-esteem in my case at points, where I would literally abandon myself. And what that looked like for me was various ways. It would be either trying to like work out what someone wanted. Like, let's say I got called for a gig and they're like, here's the material, fine. Let's say on the drum parts there's a lot of electronic drums, and I'm like, do they want me to play electronics for this? Do they want me to play acoustic versions of this? Do they want me to is they going to be tracked? Now, rather than just asking this question so that I could clarify and learn the parts that I would need to learn, I would learn every iteration of this. I would program, I would find samples. I would also learn the acoustic versions of this, like to try and make it sound as legit as possible, as close as possible to the actual track. And it would all, my workload would have been cut in half if I'd have literally just asked the question, like, how are we running this? Like, Is there going to be track? Do you want me to play electronics? Is it going to be purely acoustic? Are we doing acoustic versions of these very electronic songs? Like, what is the lineup of the rest of the band? All these things would have saved me so much, not just work, but the stress and anxiety of not knowing and trying to second guess what's happening. Now, what I will say is that obviously there's benefits in that, because when I would come into most situations, I would have multiple versions of what was about to happen. If you're an anxious person, I'm sure that you have done this too, where you run through all the scenarios, you work out what you would do in each of those scenarios, and la-di-da-di-da. Let me also tell you, this is so exhausting, mentally, physically, and it absolutely killed me. Like, when you're doing that with multiple artists and gigs and bands at once, it's so exhausting rather than just asking the question. But, oh no, that would make you slightly difficult to work with. No, it wouldn't. Actually, as I look at it now, framing it as I am right now, that makes you more professional. Can I just say? Definitely. But anyway, like I say, to me, this would be abandoning myself. You know, it would be abandoning rest. Instead, I would be practicing to the point of being in tears or so burnt out that I couldn't move. Like, it would be horrendous. Like, I would make myself sick because I was so just trying to be as little trouble as possible to whoever I was working with. What this also looked like was working a lot for free. Now, I am a proponent definitely of doing things for free if it means that it's benefiting your career, it's benefiting your network, it's benefiting your skill set. But, caveat, to a point. And I think as soon as you start recognizing that you're not gaining things from doing free work, it's time to either have a conversation of, okay, I think we need to talk about money, or it needs to be, right, I can't afford to do this any further for free, so I'm gonna have to bow out. I'll get you someone to come in if you want, or whatever else. That conversation needs to happen. I've done an episode recently on that, so if you want to look at that, I can't remember what it's called. I'm pretty sure it's got money in the title, and it's like 2 episodes ago. So if you want to check that out, please do, because I delve into that. It's awkward to talk about, to be fair. So that's what that looks like. Or it can be more on a personal level, and that can be on tour when you just find yourself around people with, obviously you're going to find yourself around people with different values, different things that are most important to them, different viewpoints, and that's fine. But when I find myself, I have found myself, I should say, stopping myself from saying something, or saying, oh, I don't agree with that actually, or, you know, that's really interesting that you think like that, or whatever, like, I want to understand more. I mean, I don't feel that way, but I'd like to understand more, sort of thing, which is a way that you can come at it. Instead, I would stay silent. And what would happen to me, specifically in those instances, they still are the worst ways that I abandon myself. When I hear someone saying something, I'm like, I don't agree with that, like, but not on like a, oh no, I don't like, oh, you like, I don't know, mushrooms, I don't like mushrooms, that, not that kind of thing. Like, deep rooted, like, beliefs, core beliefs, things that are important to me. When people say things that are in opposition of that, and they're quite, I don't know, I find them very, I don't know, I feel a physical pain in my body. And it comes in my chest and my stomach, and it's like this dropping, but it's like a stabbing pain at the same time. And I know in those moments, and they've only happened a handful of times, where it's like my spirit leaves my body. It's like I'm abandoning myself in that moment. And I instantly start closing off completely to the world, like emotionally, and just shutting down. And this is not great. And again, it's just because I don't want to cause ripples. I don't want to cause any problems. I don't want to start a difficult conversation. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and place, but at the same time, it's like, at what point, what point does it need to get to have you not abandon yourself? And the thing is that I believe that if you're abandoning yourself in the smaller moments, you will be abandoning yourself in the larger moments, because they're much harder. Saying that the smaller moments are things like, I love mushrooms, and me going, I really hate mushrooms. So yeah, it's things like that. So, and as I say, the way that has transpired for me is just stepping away from gigs, for instance, because rather than just having a moment of maybe a bit of discomfort, or maybe just asking a question or whatever else, instead I step away to preserve the fragility, if you like, of my ease to work with, if you like. I don't think that even makes sense. There's a fragility there, and I think that I'm so fearful, or I have been so fearful of breaking what feels like a fragile existence in many, many professional situations by being nothing but passive, essentially. It's left me very disconnected, not just from other people, but from myself. It's left me miserable. And what I have since or recently realized, that actually the opposite couldn't be more true. That actually by, as I mentioned in a previous episode recently, by asking questions, actually that makes you more professional. By, having awkward conversations, and not just professionally, but, personally as well. Those relationships with the people that you're having those difficult conversations with actually strengthen. I think it's hard. It is hard, but actually these things are not as fragile as you think they are. But if you start abandoning yourself and trying to be easy to work with by contorting yourself into any which position just to make it work, actually relationship with yourself is the thing that's going to suffer the most. And actually that's the thing that needs to be strongest, especially in this industry. Like, at the end of the day, everything around you can be crazy. You can't control any of it, but you will be left with yourself. So you've got to be able to trust yourself and all those sorts of things. So in terms of what I started doing to try to combat this thing of, just be easy, just say yes to everything all of the time, don't make a fuss, honestly, sometimes I just want to hit my former self. No, I don't want to hit my former self, but I just want to be like, dude, you're worth so much more than that. Like, just inherently you're fine. And do you know what? I find this as well in my students, and I've been there, where you find yourself in a gig and you're like, I'm not getting anything from this. I'm not growing musically. I really don't like the people that are around me. For me, a big one is I don't like the way that they're treating the people around me. And I think, actually, I was thinking about it, I'm just thinking about this now, a lot of it being easy to work with for me is being invisible. And that has been on stage before I started realizing the power of performance, I would stay very small when I was playing because I didn't want anyone to notice. I didn't want to draw attention away from the singer or the artist. And that, again, couldn't be further from the truth. Definitely not. But it was about staying small and just not feeling worth anything. So anyway, I can't remember why I started talking about that. But yes, I find that if I'm sat there and I'm like, I'm just not gaining anything from this. And actually, I'm not enjoying the company that I'm in. I'm not enjoying how they conduct themselves. And now I'm in this situation where this is normal to me, and I don't like that. Or, the music that we're playing it's not stretching me. Or if these people are not interested in playing these songs well, or getting better, or expanding the repertoire, or things like for function bands for me, like they're not respecting the fact that we're playing for this audience, for this wedding. This is meant to be their, you know, their day, and I'm playing with people that don't care. And to me, that's important. I care about people. I genuinely do. And I care that if I'm playing someone's wedding, I want to do the best possible job I can, because that's important to me. There's a level of integrity there that I would like to keep. So in terms of, and as I say, there's a lot of students I have that I think are in this similar position, but it's very hard to make a call on it, and to either talk about it or walk away, and be willing to walk away, I think is very, very tough, which I totally get. It's scary. It's like walking out into the abyss, but I do believe that once you open yourself up to other opportunities, you will find yourself more aligned with people. So in terms of what I do when it comes to, you know, trying to, I don't want to say not be easy, but I think let's frame it as not abandoning myself, right? So trying to, I don't even have the vocabulary. That's how new I am to this whole thing. But like being true to myself. No, I hate that as well. Respecting myself and respecting the relationship with myself first and foremost, which I believe everyone should respect the relationship they have with themselves first. So what I do with that, and don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that you don't have to be, like, you can't be kind. I think if you're inherently kind, and this is what my therapist says to me, because my fear is like being unkind, being unselfish, being selfish, all these things. But she always says to me, look, your core, who you are, does not change. And you are inherently a kind person, but you need to still be kind to yourself. You still need to have that same compassion towards yourself first, because then it leaks out into everything that you do. And she's like, you're not a bad person, so therefore your natural state, you're not going to be selfish, because you're just not that person. So anyway, I have to try and keep telling myself this because it's hard, it's difficult. So the things that I do to, I suppose, check in with myself, make sure that I'm not abandoning myself, and making sure that other people aren't taking advantage of that, whether they mean to or not. Some people do like consciously go, oh yeah, they're willing to do that for free, come on in. Other people are just grateful, and then it becomes normalized, and they ask for a little bit more, and then that becomes normalized, and they ask for a little bit more. And if you're the one just going yes, 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 why would you not ask for more? Like, it's natural, human nature. So you can't be mad about that. You can be mad at yourself for staying in the situation if you're not happy about it. So I think that's the first thing that I always think is like, right, I do a temperature check with myself where I go, what am I am I gaining something from this situation? Like, for my own well-being, for my own growth, for my own self-esteem, like, am I gaining something from this? And whether that is, as I mentioned before, like gaining a new skill set, or gaining more, like an increased social network, you know, are we gigging lots, so I'm getting a lot of experience, you know, am I able to, even things that seem so, what's the word? Oh my gosh, materialistic, if you like. That's not the right word quite, but you know what I'm saying. Am I able to get really good content from this that I can then use to promote myself, to get more work? You know, that could be a reason for sure. Or quite simply, am I getting paid to pay my rent? Yes? Okay, great. Fine. But then, you know, like I say, that can come down to like the personal relationships, interpersonal relationships with other band members, crew members, whatever else. It's like, you know, am I enjoying this? Do I like the people that I'm surrounding myself with? If the answer is no, and you're not feeling able to have honest conversations with people, I say either just notice that. I would possibly say, you know, try to start having hard conversations. And that is so easy to say and so difficult to execute, just to see what the vibe is. Because I know people that, you know, so there's this one student that I have. Oh, sorry, I'm just gonna knock the camera. It kills me. So they were setting out on their session musician career. and they were playing in a covers band who, and I think I might have mentioned about this briefly another time. The other members in this cover band had day jobs, and then they would go play these gigs at the weekend. I've got no problem with that. It's great. And this person was going out and doing these covers gigs at the weekend, and then during the week they were doing recording work, they were doing other gigs, they were doing whatever they could to progress their session musician work. But anything that they would put on social media, the band leader of this covers band would put berating comments, undermining what they're doing, taking the mick out of what they were doing, like very, you think you're a professional, you're trying to be a professional, like maybe not quite as mean as that. In fact, I think there were a couple that were quite as mean as that, but they thought that was completely normal. And I was like, dude, that is not okay. And if that's what he's saying publicly, I can't imagine how they're treating you on the gig. Like, even if it's passive aggressively, maybe it's directly, I don't know this person. And it was really undermining them and creating problems with their self-confidence. And it just permeated throughout everything that they were doing and everything that we would speak about. And often it would come back to this person saying these things. So I think if you find yourself surrounded with people like that, they got their own problems and that ain't your problem. Like, move on to people that are doing this full time, because they will understand. It's not a thing. Anyway, sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. But again, they were just trying to be easy to work with, just say yes, just want to have the work and blah, 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 blah. But they were abandoning themselves, 100%. You're not going to let someone, like, imagine. I think most people that are listening to this are similar to me. And the way that people sometimes speak to me, I now think, oh my God, I would never speak to anyone like that. It's just awful. But then again, I do speak to myself like that sometimes, so I need to watch myself. But so I think that is the first port of call of like, right, what am I actually getting from this? What am I increasing my skill set and all those sorts of things? And if the answer is no, something needs to change. The other thing that I would say is, as I said, just noticing the people that you're around. And for me, what I noticed is that when it came to trying to be easy to work with, the easier I tried to become, the more tense I became, the more stressed I became, the less I felt I could be myself and be free and be open. And again, this is something that is not just music related for me, this is life related. I feel now that actually my favorite places are with people that I can 100% be myself with. And in fairness, I will say that this podcast is one of those places. It's probably one of the earliest places that I did feel I could be myself in with you, basically. So thank you for that. But that has kind of expanded a little bit, and that is a real eye-opening experience to me, because those people that you can be yourself with, not being easy, maybe having difficult conversations, difficult scenario situations, actually strengthens those relationships, if they're your people. Because it's the other thing, you will start finding your people. I know many people, I've worked with many people, in terms of people that are my people, that if I said to you, right, you can have any musicians on stage with you, you can have any crew people on stage with you, it's not as big a pool as you would imagine. But let me tell you, those people, they're my people. They're so great. I just adore them. I can be myself. We can have fun. We can have difficult times. I know that it will be okay. So, but the only reason that I've found those people is because I've allowed myself to be myself, and not to be the person that is easy to work with, but is willing to ask questions and, be wrong about things and, just have conversations. So I think that cost of being, again, to me, it always comes back to abandoning yourself. It's when I haven't abandoned myself with those people that, interesting things have happened, but also like strong bonds have been formed. And I think that is like across the board in life, not just in music. So I've written notes so that I don't forget things, so let's just have a real quick look. So yeah, I think that's what I was going to say. So in terms of small ways that I started not abandoning myself, the way that I started doing it was little ways on tour, actually. And this probably started later than you would probably think. It probably started in maybe 2018. Actually, ironically, when I started this podcast, now that I'm thinking about it. So it was around a similar time, maybe a little earlier, where I started saying no to things. I started exercising the power of no, which was so hard for me. And to me, that was things like, for instance, back in the day, if I was on tour and anyone in any band that I was playing with were like, oh, do you want to go out here on this day off? Or should we all go out for a meal this evening or whatever? I didn't even think about it, actually. Yeah, I'll be there. And I never actually even thought, do I want to go? Do I want to do that? And obviously when you're early days, it's all fun and you're young and you have energy. But as time went on, I would again abandon myself, sacrifice myself. I would be so exhausted, and yet I would still say yes. And this was not okay. So I think it was around about 2018, I actually started thinking, do I want to? And then saying, no, I'm all right, actually. And actually doing things because I wanted to do them, not because I felt obliged to do them. And I always framed it as, oh, it's just part of my job, I have to say yes. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's, yes, the social aspect is important. But if you're exhausted, you've got to put yourself first. You've got to. If you are hanging out of your backside because you're so tired from all the flights and the gigs and the travel and blah, 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 and the socializing, and you just need an evening where you're literally staring into space watching, I don't know, what's it called? Love is Blind. I was like, Love at First Sight. I was like, Married at First Sight, Love at First Sight, Love is Blind, or whatever else. That's okay. You're allowed to do that. You know, if you've got a day off. I know people that, Sharice is one of them actually, she's great. On a day off, she will go out and see places. Me? You give me a day off? I'm in my hotel room. I am hunkered down like a little bear. I love a day off. Just me in my hotel room. I will order in food. I'll watch films. I'll watch series. And I ideally will not speak to a single soul. It's my favorite thing on tour. It's my favorite. And I just started doing that. You know, I started, and that wasn't 2018, definitely not. That was more like 2020, maybe 2019, 2020, where I was like, yeah, no, this is my thing. I actually, no, that's not true. Sometimes I would do that on tour back in the day, but I would have to be exhausted. It wasn't just like asking myself, oh, do I want to do this? No, okay, cool. I'm going to just do what I want to do. So I think exercising those smaller no's are good, like day to day. And again, you don't need to be rude about it. It's just, no, I'm all right, thanks. Or no, I'm a bit tired, I'm going to just chill. People get it. People understand. If they don't, there's something going on with them. That's nothing to do with you. And then you can get to those bigger no's. Like, in fact, now I'm thinking about it, do you know what? No, I have exercised no's before where it's funny. I don't know how I can tell this story. There was a particular situation where I was asked to do something that in my core was such a hard no, it was not even, it was an instant, nope, you don't do that. Like, that's not me, that's not what I do, that's not why I'm a drummer, that's not anything to do with being a drummer for me. It was essentially, let's say, yeah, screw it, exploiting the fact that I was a woman in a situation to use as publicity. Very vague, I know, but I'd rather keep it vague. And I remember being asked by someone this thing of like, oh, we want you to do this. And I remember my insides because my core was just like, no. But the situation, the pressure of it, and I was like, oh, but am I being too silly here? You know, oh, don't be difficult. You know, you should be lucky. You're just lucky to be here. You should say yes. But luckily, that core belief was so stubborn that I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And you know what? It was awkward. The response was not good. It was met with, oh no, come on, it's not a big deal. All the typical things. And I was like, no, I'm not about that. It goes against everything that I am as a drummer and a person. I will not do that. And again, this was not a quick conversation. It kept going. It was met with a lot of resistance. They took no as an answer finally. But I will say that I am proud of that moment, that I stuck with myself, because I could have just very easily have gone, oh, all right, and abandoned myself. I did not abandon myself in that moment, and I'm very proud of myself. And I feel ever so slightly emotional about that fact, because that was quite a while ago now that I'm thinking about it. And for everything else that was happening in my life at that time, it was a very out of character response, should we say. So I am very, very proud of myself for that. But those moments have become more and more frequent, which is really cool, because, you know, it's saying, like, the hardest thing for me is saying no to gigs. And it's never just about, for me, like, the work. The work is never just the work standalone, ever. It's the potential, it's the, let's call it, I don't want to say public perception because that seems too widespread, but, you know, what other people will think about me working with that artist, or, you know, my family, or anything else. And like I say, the opportunities that might come from it. You know, I'm that person. I'm like, oh, look at and these skills that I might learn, and the gigs that I might do, and where we might go, well, that might be fun. You know, all of that. But actually, when it comes down to it, the core of, oh yes, but okay, all those things aside, do you actually want to do it? Do you like the music? Do you like the people? Do you want to be on the road? All these things. And recently I've said no to a few things that have been so, I just want to be the easy person that says yes. That's all that I've got in my soul's going, just please be easy. And then there's part of me just going, but you don't want to do it. And I'm like, oh no, I'm sorry. No, I don't want to do that. So, but as I say, those moments are the ones that, although really hard, just because I've always been that person that wanted to be easy and just say yes to everything, it's those moments that, in fact, talking about sort of strengthening these difficult conversations with other people is strengthening the bond with myself, and it makes me able to trust myself further, because gigs will come and go. They always will. It's just the nature of it. You will never be on one gig for the whole of your life. Doubtful. Very, very doubtful. Like, incredibly doubtful. But you'll always have yourself, and if you can trust your own judgment, what is important to you, and all those things, if you can develop that relationship with yourself, and that is by not being easy, by not abandoning yourself. And like I say, it's not a binary thing. There is a scale, because sometimes you will say yes to things that you're not 100% like happy with, but you're like, but I see the benefit in doing them. So therefore, let's do it. Let's stick it out for a bit, or just go see what it's about. Just by saying yes, it doesn't mean that you're committed for life. This is another thing that I'm learning. In fact, there's something very recently that has happened that has really thrown me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I've reverted back in a lot of ways. And the fear of reverting back is actually scarier than the reverting itself. It's very interesting. I may speak about it one day. It will be very far in the future if I do. But anyway, I just want to check my notes to check that I didn't miss anything. Yes, I think that's kind of it, basically. I think the main crux of this is, rather than trying to be as easy as possible, start with yourself and what you need. And as my therapist said to me, which is one of the very first things that we uncovered about my brain and psyche, is that I never, basically the way she put it was, she said, right, so when you're making a decision about something, like, what's the process like? And I'm like, well, I'll see, well, what do they want to do? And like, let's say someone's asking to go out for a meal. Okay, so well, what do they want to do? Do they have any dietary requirements? Where should we go? Where do they live? We should go somewhere near where they live, so it's easy for them to get going, like to get there, to get home safely. What kind of food do they like? Yeah, okay, so maybe we can go for like Japanese and blah, 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 and all these things. And she was just like, okay, you haven't once mentioned about what you would like. And I'm like, okay. And she was like, do you ever even consider what you might want out of a interaction situation? And I'm like, no, because I'm so busy looking after everyone else and making sure that everyone else is okay, that I don't even come into the equation. This is what I realized. I never came into the equation of any decision. I would focus on the other person, the other people, the other situation. Outside, 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 never inside. And she said to me, okay, so here's where we start. Just put yourself on the ledger. You don't need to be at the top of the ledger just yet, because that's a big step. But at least put yourself on the ledger. Like, who else is going to look after you if you're not looking after you? So I kind of leave you with that. And I think a lot of it comes down to this. And again, it's all self-esteem based, I think. This kind of trying to be as easy as possible. And as I mentioned, I hope I mentioned on this version of things and not on the 20-minute episode that I stopped recording because it was such a mess. There are benefits to being the easy person, but the drawbacks are so great. So if you are going to try and be easygoing, just don't be easygoing all the time, or in every situation, or in every interaction. Like, there are degrees of ease, and as long as you're getting something from it, as long as you feel like you're growing, you're happy to a point, no situation is perfect, obviously, then by all means do. But keep checking in with yourself. Keep checking it that you're all right, that you're happy to a point. And if you're not, have a difficult conversation and address it when it's a small conversation versus when it builds up and becomes a huge problem. Because that is what I have done in the past. Little things would happen and I would let them go. Let them go, in inverted commas. Let them go, but remember them. And then they would build up inside of me. And it may be people treating me a certain way, treating others a certain way, and I would just, they would fester in me, and then they would become so big, and I would be acting so passively aggressively towards people and shutting off emotionally to the point that then I would just leave. I would just walk away. And it would have to get to that point for me to take action. And even then, it was still avoidant. It wasn't actually having a conversation. Whereas if I'd have just addressed these things when they were a tiny little seed of something that had happened and gone, I don't really like that, or would you mind not speaking to me like that, or whatever else it is, I need this from you, or anything else, it would have been a very different outcome. And I see this around me a lot as well. I don't think most people are very good at confrontation, even if it's tiny confrontation. And I'm trying to get better at it. I am getting better at it. I know that I am. And actually, I can tell you from experience that feeling of fragility, that if you do have a difficult conversation, the bond will be broken, or you will be broken, or they will be broken, or the whole thing will break. Actually, it's the exact opposite. Things are strengthened. I have learned this over and over again, especially in the last 2 years. I currently am living the richest, most fulfilled life I've ever lived. And it's nothing about the things that I'm doing, if that makes sense. It's not the gigs I'm playing. It's not the tours that I'm going on. It's not the artists that I'm working with. It's the relationship that I'm creating with myself, which is healthy and nice, which is weird. And I still feel awkward saying that. But in turn, it's the interpersonal relationships that I have and have had, and I'm developing those. And, they are becoming so rich, and I've realised how not fragile they are at all. And I can only like recommend it more than anything. So stop being easy. Let's get a bit difficult. Not even difficult. Just ask questions. Challenge people in a kind way. But most of all, please don't abandon yourself. And if any of this has resonated with you, please do have a think or look into the whole self-esteem thing. You don't need to be entitled. You don't need to be up that end of the scale, which I still struggle with seeing people that are entitled, but you equally don't need to be at the bottom end of the scale. There's a happy medium, and I need to remember that. Just by not being at the very bottom, it doesn't mean that you're at the very top. There's an in-between. So anyway, I'm going to leave you on that note. I hope that this has helped. I hope that this makes sense. It makes more sense than the last version of this, trust me. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this episode and would like to share it, then please do. Please like, share and subscribe. If you would like to leave a review, please do that over on any good podcasting platforms, which I don't often ask for, but it does help with getting the word out to other musicians or creatives generally. A lot of this kind of does span other other careers. If you would like to follow me on Instagram and see when I'll be doing my live hangs, which I'm actually doing one in a couple of hours, but this is coming out on Saturday, so you will have missed it. You can go to @HeyEmilyDrums. If you'd like to ask me a very specific question for a future episode, you can go to emilydrums.com/AMA. Don't know what's happening to my brain. And if you'd like to book in for a free discovery call to see what it looks like to work together one-to-one, then you can go to emilydrums.com. It's a free 30-minute call. Basically, I just ask you what your goals and dreams are, and then I sort of will let you know any ideas that I have in the moment to kind of help you along with that. And then if you want to work together further after that, then I tell you about that too. So anyway, I shall love you and leave you. I hope that you're having a great day wherever you are, whatever you're up to. The sun is trying desperately to come out here, which is really nice, but I'm about to go and have lunch. And then, like I said, I'm going to go do this YouTube live hang and chat for an hour to my lovely Bunkers Squad et al. I've been writing an essay, so there's lots of et als going on. But anyway, I shall see you next time for another subject. Take care of yourself, and yeah, I'll speak to you soon. All right, bye.